Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. And today we're joined by Jade Lowder to talk about his project It's a Horror Show, some of his new things coming up, and a little bit more. Welcome to the show, Jade. It's always great talking to you, dude. One of my favorite creators in the see. How are you? Tell us all about what you do and your projects.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. So name's Jade Lowder. I'm an independent comic creator based out of Montana, which is provides its own interesting challenges and stuff like that. And I mostly make my own series of comics called It's a Horror Show, which are all standalone. There it is. Standalone horror stories, and they're all kind of different forays into different avenues and of horror and horror tropes that I find funny or interesting. And it's mostly like campy, over the top, very comedy based kind of horror stuff. My most recent one was It's a Horror Show: The Breakup, which I did the Kickstarter for this past year, and just finishing up all the fulfillment and all that stuff for that one right now. And that one was a blast, and it included I included lots of like cameos of different creators and whatnot, including Mr. Bloxdorf himself makes a cameo, and that a very bloody cameo. Which was so much fun to be able to use all these images of my friends and stuff like that in comics, and get to bloodily dismember them with all their permission. They were all like super into it. I think
So
everybody like told me like, "Hey, just go for it. Like, make it really gruesome." I'm like, "Oh, okay." That's what you want. Which it was a blast to make that. And I'm excited to keep doing kind of stuff like that, where it's like collaboration, and then also like, I don't know, I like those kind of crossover moments and ideas with different independent creators. And so that's the big strokes of what I do. I also work on a series called Dead and Still Dying with Mark Bernal, and we're going to be working on the second one next year, I think. I keep hounding him. I'm like, we're making this. We're going to do this. 2025. We're making this book.
Yes.
So
it's such a good book. It's one of the coolest things. Like, I think Dead and Still Dying was like the third book I checked out by you, and it was like crazy seeing that, and then the breakup, because you could tell like the leap in art you had and like coloring from the date into the breakup and Dead and Still Dying, and it just seemed like a very like you locked in. I feel like more of your style, and then you came and did this Halloween Saves Sam and Jack. And this is a fun little like short, it's a fun little short story. But like, again, like I saw the advancement in your art for some reason. Like it seems like you're more comfortable making comics at this point.
Definitely. Like I think when I started the date, I was still kind of like trying to find, quote unquote, what my voice is, or how I can go about making things, like, either quickly or just as professionally as I can and whatnot. And then by the time I got to Dead and Still Dying, I had like learned some new techniques with coloring and stuff like that, and was willing to give those a shot, especially with like digital lettering and all that kind of stuff. And then, taking all that back to my own series, It's a Horror Show with The Breakup, I was able to, again, level that up. And through doing books and all that kind of stuff, you just learn new things. Like, oh, that's a shortcut, or that's an easier way to do it, or something that's more effective. And I feel like if you look at Dead and Still Dying, like I was using every trick in the bag that I had because I wanted to make it look as good as possible. And then when I get to like my most recent like colored book, which was Halloween Saves Sam and Jack, I've like simplified my process of just like, I know this is going to look good to my line work and how it's going to print well and all that kind of stuff. And I figured out colors and how that works with printing, because like it's a different thing when you're seeing it on screen versus when you have it printed with your own line work. And I feel like once I did Sam and Jack, I knew what was going to look good with my style, with the way I draw. And I think I think Sam and Jack is the best looking book I've done for sure.
I love it, dude. You've been insanely busy, because you even got to help out with Baltimore Comic Con. You did the cover for us here.
Yeah.
One of the coolest, I think, cover we've seen for this con, with this cosplay get up and everything. And again, you're this green you use. I feel like that's a big part of you for some reason. Like I think of this Like
Yes, green.
like when I these 3 books all have like that kind of green in that sense, you know what I mean? And it's something I kind of noticed of a pattern of yours in general. And I
That's
was like, oh wow, this
interesting.
has like a Jade like himself is using like this specific green, and I just love how that comes across. I don't think that's
That's
intentional at
funny.
all by you, but it's just something I've noticed as like a consumer of your work.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know that I specifically do that. Like most of the time when I'm developing like colors for maybe a cover or inside stuff, I'm thinking lots about color theory and how things are going to play with each other and how they're going to pop. And so I try and use like lots of complementary stuff, especially when I have something in the foreground I want it to push forward, and so on and so forth. Um, and so I end up using, like, I go back to, because I feel like if you were to ask like what colors I use all the time, I think I'm always like purple and yellow. Like those are the colors I'm using all the time. So it's funny to think that like green is making, like there's this this powerful, palpable green in these books, which is funny to me. Um, yeah.
What's super interesting too is that, like, I know some of your background. You have a great like educational background in art. You are a teacher as well, where you teach art, and it sounds like you've done a handful of books. Obviously, like 5 books or so, and where you're working on new stuff. You were part of the Apollo City Comics Punk anthology as well, my first book I ever put out, and so you've been very busy as a creator, and it's really great and interesting to learn that you're still evolving your process. You're still learning things. You're still like, testing things out and playing with it. Do you have advice for creators who are maybe on their first, second book or so, and there's, maybe like not exploring as much or finding out
Mm.
some of these things you've discovered?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's this tendency in comics and stuff like that to think that like from their first book to your next book there needs to be this like through line of consistency of art making. It's like it's got to look the same, and I just don't like. I think as like independent creators, that's true. I don't think anybody's really looking for that. I think that growth is a really important thing, especially as like you're trying to improve and whatnot. More than anything, I just don't treat anything precious. I think that's the big one. Is just like nothing is sacred. Like I will try to fix and manipulate and change things around all parts and aspects of my art as I'm doing it, as a way of maybe that sense of growth, but also just like I'm constantly curious. I just want to try a bunch of different stuff out and see like, ooh, well, what if I did this? And I just want to kind of keep evolving, and I don't want to stay in the same place with the books. I want them to each one. I want them to look better and better and better and better. And whatever that sense of better means, that's totally internal. Because I think that like they look good, or at least I feel like they're getting to where I like them, but I want them to keep growing to my sense of like what I want them to be. And that's always a moving target, and it's always very forward thinking. And so I just I think the advice would be, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be afraid to throw it all away, to try something different, to make that weird your weird edit be the final version. I can't, most of the time when I'm coloring or I'm doing something, I'll have like 2 or 3 different versions of it. And I often pick the weirdest one, the one that I was just like, yeah, this is just a random thought. Maybe this will do something. And it's just like, yeah, it ends up being way more interesting. And so I think, don't treat anything too, precious, and be willing to take those risks with your own creation.
I love that. And I mean, and speaking of which, too, like, challenging yourself with every book. Why don't you tell us about the next book you're working on at this
Sure.
moment?
So the next book that is going to come out, that's like slotted, that's more or less ready. It's getting
Yeah.
there. Is It's a Horror Show, the found footage anthology, which is an anthology of different creators that created horror, campy, over the top horror stories, very much in my wheelhouse. That we're going to put into this anthology that's coming out in February, and it's a blast. And so, Brandon, you're working as an editor with this project, so you know all about it as well. And it's a really fun book. We have some amazing creators, all across the country, from England to Iran. It's awesome, the amount of different countries and creators that are a part of this project. And the stories range from zombies, mutant pizza to like crazy like flesh eating lice and all kinds of different. Yeah, it's such a blast. It's a bloody over the top affair, and it's going to be so much fun. And so that comes out in February. And then after that, there will be probably a few more It's a Horror Show projects. I know we're going to do another It's a Horror Show Presents, which is where I invite just one creator to come in, and I kind of like we put the umbrella of It's a Horror Show on it. And so we'll do one of those. And then I've got my next It's a Horror Show is currently working right now, which is loosely titled The Specimen. I don't know if that's what it will stay as. But I'm going back and using my kind of werewolf character and taking him on another fun kind of adventure with his punk rock band, which will be great.
I love it. I love it so much. Your aesthetic, your style, it's always like appealed to me so much. And that's a big reason why you got into the punk anthology and how we first became acquainted and everything.
Totally.
I love your Fugazi references and everything, and just your
Thank you.
it's just super rad. And I feel like some people get it, some people don't. But when you look at the photos and what you've done, it's the coolest thing in the world, and I love your style. And it's a big reason why you drew the new icon for Ink Spotlights that it may or may not be debuted once this episode out. It should be.
Yeah.
If it is, then you'll see it right.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So, but you will be working a lot with Comix Wellspring over the next year or so. We have a lot of things in line. And you're one of those indie creators we chose because of your background and your education and your openness and your the way you take feedback and collaborate. But also, like, I've personally collaborated with you so many times, so I know how much fun and like energetic you are and how much you like a challenge as well, which I feel like I'm definitely giving you in one of these scripts I'm writing for you with that 16 panel head. So I'm so
good.
sorry.
I love it when I get a script like from someone to draw, or even like in my own scripts, and when I put something in there that I'm like, I don't know how to draw this. This is gonna be interesting. That's the most fun part. Like, I think one thing I hate drawing them, and I hate drawing cars. I absolutely despise it, and yet I keep writing scripts that just have so many cars, and I don't understand why I keep doing this to myself. I think it's got to be something like in the back of my head being like, this is tough for you, you should keep doing it and keep practicing. And so like I'm drawing all these dang cars.
That's amazing. I mean, it's good. It's good to challenge yourself like that, even indirectly, you know what I mean? And taking it on and not, literally steering away from it, I guess. Because that's what's going to make you grow as a creator. And you'll find little ways to like either work with what you're bad at and make it still like visually, look appealing and, find itself on the page, or you'll surprise yourself and you'll be like, I didn't realize I can do that in general. So there's never a negative approach of taking on an assignment like that, or a drawing like that. Like every week on Spilled Ink, I'm like, I don't know how to draw Beetlejuice. Like, I don't, that's what we're doing tonight, and I'm just like, I have no idea. And then it just we figure it out. It's just keep on adding lines, and it'll happen eventually. But where can we find your work? Where can people go to help support you? And where can we go to find this Kickstarter as well?
Yeah. So easiest way to follow along with anything I've got going on is through the Instagrams, just at Jade Lowder, and you'll be able to find pretty much everything I'm doing. I keep it fairly updated with news and stuff like that, what's going on. I also have a Patreon. It's just Patreon/Jade Lowder, where again I post comics weekly and stuff like that, new stuff that I'm working on, new pages, interviews, anything like that. It's a good landing page and stuff like that. I also have a website. It's just jadelowder.com. Pretty simple, easy to find. And again, it's got like work from when I was in school, from my master's to my undergraduate stuff, into comics and stuff like that I'm working on now. And then you can buy my books at lesserknowncomics.com. You can buy pretty much everything that I've made there, which is great. And then the Kickstarter will be it's Kickstarter, and then we'll put a link just to make it easy to
think of the description down here. You get the pre-save it, and that way you guys can know when it launches. It's a awesome book that we're putting together. It's over 100 pages. It's with some phenomenal creators, 20-something creators on this book. There's a new Teenage Babylon short in there that I worked on as well with Max Flowers and why am I spacing out? My
Tanner.
art Tanner. Thank you. I was saying Tyler. I'm so sorry. Tanner. Tanner Ogle. I love you so much, Tanner. We get Tanner on the show soon too. But awesome, Jade. I'm so excited for everything you do. I love talking to you. We'll cut it
Thanks,
here because
man.
I could talk to you for the next 3 hours. It's a
Same, dude.
blast. Please support Jade in the links below, and check out It's a Horror Show. It's a phenomenal book. It's so much fun, and if you love camp stuff, this is it. This is your alleyway towards it. And prep for Halloween next year. There's gonna be a lot of cool horror books you could check out. Jade, thank you so much for stepping in the spotlight today, and I can't wait to have you on another show very soon.
Yeah, thanks, man.